Bobo at the Zoo, a short story by Paul McCann. Being the trainer, bus driver, cleaner, fundraiser, and general all-round do-it-yourself man at the Bosco Boxing Club, Bobo could use the club's equipment and facilities whenever he needed them, as long as that involved the community. Bobo decided to use the bus to bring the children from Blue View Orphanage on an excursion to the city zoo. Being an orphan himself, Bobo was able to appreciate how hard life can be when you're on your own. That's the reason why Bobo liked to give the children at the Blue View Orphanage special treats every now and then. He was able to give something that he never got, and doing this kind of thing made him feel good about himself. So after he got the okay from the authorities at the orphanage, he approached some of the business people in the village for donations that would cover the cost of the excursion. As always, most people were only too glad to help Bobo. Last of all, he knocked on his old friend Charlie's front door. Charlie, would you ever do me a favour? Listen, I want you to come along with me on the bus tomorrow and help me with an excursion to the zoo. To the zoo? Charlie asked. Bobo replied, Yes, to the zoo. With who to the zoo? Asked Charlie. With you to the zoo, Bobo replied. And who else? Asked Charlie. Bobo replied, Just some of the new kids from Blue View. Which zoo? Charlie asked. Wellview Zoo, Bobo replied. Charlie seemed to be stretching the conversation a little bit, and Bobo said, So, it's me, you, and some kids from Blue View to go to Wellview Zoo. Sounds good. Yeah, it sounds good, Charlie, Bobo replied. Charlie showed up, even a bigger smile on his face, and he said, Sounds maybe too good to be true at Blue View, me and you, going to the Wellview. Charlie laughed. It sounds too good to be true to me too, Bobo. So what will the bus for Wellview Zoo leave in the morning? It's going to leave at 2 outside Blue View, he answered. Okay, then I'll see you at 2 at Blue View for our trip to Wellview Zoo. Is everything all right, Charlie? Bobo said. Suddenly Charlie's mum came to the door. She looked a bit upset and she said, Well, Charlie, are you going to help me with the washing up? Or are you just going to stand here and talk all night? Oh, sure, Mum. I'll be right in, Charlie answered. Bobo smiled and he said, Nah, I get it, Charlie. You were stalling for time to get out of doing the dishes. Bobo, I'm always doing the dishes, Charlie said. Don't let it worry you, Charlie. See you at 2 outside Blue View. After he left Charlie's house, Bobo went and collected the money donations that were promised. Then he went to break the good news to the kids at Blue View Orphanage. The next day at the bus, all the orphans were already on board and they were so excited. It was 2 and there was no sign of Charlie as yet. They waited about 15 minutes and then Bobo decided to call to Charlie's house and see what was going on. After he left the bus, he got to Charlie's house and he saw Charlie up a ladder, cleaning out the gutters around the roof of the house. Hey, Charlie, what's your problem? The front door of Charlie's house opened up and Charlie's mother stepped outside with her arms folded and she said, Oh, there's no problem, Bobo. I just told Charles that before he could go to the zoo, he had to clean the gutters. You see, Bobo, after you left last night, he made such a fuss about washing up a few dishes that I ended up doing them myself. So I grounded him for 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Bobo answered. Charles' mother replied with a wink of her eye. Yes, but then he told me about your excursion to the zoo today and how important it was that he had to go because it was his job to order all of the lunches for the children on the bus. Charlie was embarrassed and shouted down from the top of the ladder, "Mom, don't go and tell my business on the street. It's personal stuff." Charlie's mother said, "So, Bobo, anyhow, the first thing I did was to forbid him from the zoo trip today, but then I thought how I could disappoint all those kids who might go hungry if Charles wasn't there, and I decided I would just ask a small favour of having my gutters cleaned in return for letting him go to the zoo." Bobo winked at her and he said, "Well, that seems like a fair enough bargain." "Okay then, Charles. That will do. You and the gutters, off you go now. Have a nice trip to the zoo." Charlie nearly buckled up in two in his rush to get into the bus. The ladder was thrown to one side, and in a matter of minutes they were on the road to Wildview Zoo. They were about halfway there when the bus broke down. There was no phone, and after a while, on the side of the road, Bobo waved down a truck and asked for a lift. Lucky for them, the truck was going to the zoo with delivery of goods, and so they all clambered in the back of the truck except for Bobo, who got in the front with the driver. Finally they arrived at the zoo, but when the truck driver tried to open the back door of the truck, he discovered it wouldn't open. The latch on the door was too old, and the rust on it seemed to have welded it tightly shut. Bobo shouted under the door, "Listen, Charlie, the back door won't open, so can you help?" Charlie responded, "Okay, sure, Bobo. Don't worry, I'll get you out very soon." Bobo could hear Charlie starting to panic a little bit. "Charlie, are they going to come with some device to open up the truck?" Amon said he was going to maybe come with a welder." And shortly afterwards, Amon came with an oxy welder cutting through the locking bar on the door, and then it swung open to everyone's relief. They all got out of the truck and thanked the truck driver and the workman for their trouble, and the truck driver said,
Sure, that's okay. You probably all did me a favour because I should have got that lock fixed a year ago. It's now going to happen, thanks to you."
Bobo shook his hand and they all parted friends.
Oh, what to say?"
said Charlie, screaming in excitement.
"Oh, look at the monkeys,"
said Dan, who was one of the orphans. They all went over to the monkey section where a large group of monkeys were housed behind wire in a small monkey sanctuary. A man-made river ran through the monkey house bordered by rocks and trees, with lots of ropes and things for them to climb and swing on. It looked remotely realistic to their wild habitat. After looking at the monkey, someone asked to see the lions who were also kept nearby. Bobo and the orphans made their way over to the lion's den. Everyone went over except for Charlie, who remained at the monkey cage. He was enjoying making funny faces at the monkeys, who in turn made faces back at Charlie. This game continued for a short while, until a monkey reached out from behind the cage and grabbed Charlie's hand and his hat from his head. Behind the wire cage, the small monkey sat wearing Charlie's hat, and he put one finger up in the air as if he was pointing to the hat to dare Charlie to come in and get his hat back. And sure enough, Charlie climbed up the wire cage and jumped over into the monkey's enclosure. And that's when Bobo spotted what was going on. He rushed over and called Charlie, but Charlie never heard a word that was said, and began to chase the monkey with the hat around and around. And Bobo scaled up the wire cage and also jumped in and started to chase after Charlie. A small crowd gathered around the monkey enclosure, thinking that it was part of a show that the zoo had put on. Charlie was running after the monkeys, who leapt up in the trees and were swinging on the ropes. Bobo was trying to grab Charlie, who followed everywhere the monkeys went, and the audience began to throw coins and even banknotes in through the wire. All of a sudden, Charlie grabbed his hat, and the monkey who was swinging from the trapeze gave a big shriek of relief. Charlie, in turn, was tackled by Bobo around the legs, who almost dragged him by the scruff of the neck over to the wire cage, where the audience applauded and threw more money over the wire. Charlie looked at Bobo, who waved, and started to pick up as much money as he could. Bobo also started to pick up money too, and the crowd dispersed, thinking that was the end of the show. Outside the monkey cage, Bobo and Charlie counted how much money was thrown in by the public. It came to about £150 in total. Bobo decided that as going to pay for the truck to get fixed would be a good idea, so he rang up the motor mechanic to come from the village and to fix the truck up with a broken door. And then he would pay him when he got back home to the village. After an hour or so, the mechanic arrived, and to Bobo's surprise, all that was needed was a new fan belt. Bobo gladly paid the £25, and that was it. With well over £100 left from the public generation's donation, coin tossing, Bobo made a decision that the money should go towards Christmas presents for all of the orphanages at Blueview, and the children would have a nice dinner on that date. So they all went into the town and started to buy some things for Christmas at Blueview. When the animals had all been seen and they were all on their way out of the zoo, an attendant approached Bobo and asked for the money for their admittance. Bobo forgot that because all the orphan children were in the back of the truck when they arrived, so he didn't actually pay for their entrance. He apologised and he paid the fee, and they all left Wildview Zoo for Blueview. Once back in the village, Bobo escorted everyone back to the orphanage. They were all very tired after a long day. A week before Christmas, Bobo and Charlie went into the town, and they purchased a tall Christmas tree and brought some fairy lights as well, tinsel and decorations, and they paid at the checkout. And with the money that was still left, they were able to get some toys, and they had some plans also for a Christmas dinner at the orphanage. And sure enough, when Christmas came at Blueview, everyone had a special treat. That's the end of the story.